Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Corporate Planning Committee meeting to order. And note that members of council present. We have all members of council present. And have you listed the guests and staff?
Yes, sir.
Duly recorded. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Hearing none, I'll move for the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover moved by Councillor Hatfield? All in favor of approving the agenda? I'll call those not in favor. I don't hear anybody, so the agenda is approved.
Mr. Mayor, we lost a councillor,
Bill Shason.
Councillor Chason.
Okay, we just lost contact with Councillor Chason. We'll just try to reestablish that before we move to the next section. Can we go ahead and do the delegations
Yeah.
and presentations?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
we can.
So we will do the presentation, and this evening I'm very pleased to welcome representatives from Community Living Algoma, and we have a few chores to do here. So I'm not sure, Craig, are you going to speak first, or you want to say a few words ahead of this, or is it Jennifer that's with us as well?
No, Gordon will be speaking today.
Okay. So Gordon, you can go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, Wawa, Mayor Rhodey, councilors, and fellow community members. We are proud to stand before you as the proclamation to announce Community Living Awareness Month is read. I am Gordon Draper and Craig Holmes and Deborah Chadwick, and we are here on behalf of Community Living Algoma. We are also members of Council of Community Living Algoma. We are a group of individuals who speak out for change, advocating for others and ourselves within CLA and the community of Algoma. Community Living Algoma is a nonprofit charitable organization committed to the full inclusion and citizenship of people with intellectual disabilities. Now in its 68th year of operation, it provides services and support to over 720 children and adults in the District of Algoma. Community Living Awareness Month is also being recognized by Horn Plain, Blind River, Elliott Lake, Sault Ste. Marie. We are honored to share this recognition with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon, and I'm honored to read the proclamation on behalf of the municipality. The Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa Proclamation. Whereas Community Living Algoma has provided supports and services to people with intellectual disabilities and their families in the municipality of Wawa and surrounding district since 1954, and now provides services to 333 adults and 388 children. And whereas Community Living Algoma's goal is that people with intellectual disabilities have every opportunity to participate fully in our community with dignity, independence, and acceptance. And whereas Community Living Algoma works with Wawa volunteers and other stakeholder groups to promote citizenship for people with intellectual disabilities so they have the rights and responsibilities and the opportunities to come with participating and contributing as a valued member in society. And whereas Community Living Algoma Awareness Month is a province-wide initiative created to celebrate the value of living, which are inclusion, equality, and respect. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Community Living Algoma Awareness Month in the Municipality of Wawa, dated this 20th of April, 2021, and it's signed by Kathy Sear, Clerk, and Ron Rohde, Mayor. So we're very pleased to be able to do that, and we wish your organization all the best during the month for any activities that you have planned with all of your clients and your volunteers. You are live. If you want an opportunity to make a comment or say something, we're certainly welcome to give you that opportunity. If there's anything else you'd like to add further.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to share the proclamation on the screen?
Sure. Kathy's going to put the proclamation up on the screen for everyone to see.
So I signed it first and then share.
Mhm. You have to go share screen. Press the green. Yeah. There.
So there's the proclamation. Well, again, I thank you, Gordon, for your participation this evening, and to the staff that are with you, supporting you. Thank you very much, and we're very pleased to be participating with you in this special month. All the best to all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Rohde and councilors.
Very good. Great. Have a good evening.
Yep.
So moving on to item 5 in our meeting, adoption of minutes for the I got the wrong target. Where's my page? My page there it is. Adoption of minutes from Tuesday, April the 6th. I need a mover. If I could get Robert to move that we adopt the minutes from that date. If anyone is not in favor, I want to hear it. Hearing nothing, I am making that these minutes are approved. Business arising under a previous meeting, we don't have anything. Under new business 7.1, CEO's budgets for 2021, just a little update.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maureen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Mayor and Council. The report put forward to you tonight is recommending that Council receive this report, as well as approving the 2021 operating and capital budgets for the year as presented, and tonight the required budget and tax bylaws be approved during a regular meeting. As we informed Council through some recent presentations, the operating budget does present the following recommendations, including that the budget contains a property tax levy increase of only 1%, which provides to the municipality an additional $49,147 for budgeting purposes this year. It also recommends that we use a portion of the 2020 surplus of $306,000 to be carried over from 2020 into the 2021 operating budget. This will help to fund the necessary infrastructure and capital improvements in the budget without putting additional tax burden onto our taxpayers. The 2020 surplus is now estimated at being $850,000, which is of course subject to the final audit confirmation. But the auditors and I have spoken this week, and it is very close to being finalized. So approximately less than half of that surplus would be brought forward to the 2021 operating budget. The operating budget also recommends that $490,000 be transferred from the operating budget into capital reserves. This will help to fund necessary infrastructure projects planned for this year, but also help us to plan and prepare for future infrastructure projects. The 2021 balanced budget will result in increased spending of about 0.86% compared to the previous year, or an additional spending of $113,000 compared to 2020. In the report, I've outlined the chart that was presented to council, which has no changes recommended since this report was presented at the end of March. It is a balanced budget totaling expenditures of $13,327,383, representing again a 0.86% increase over the previous year. Public input opportunities were provided to the public, both for the capital budget and for the operating budget. And we had only received one comment from the public about the budgets. And my recommendation to council is that due to COVID, we weren't able to offer any public information, open houses, or opportunity to really engage with the public, that in 2022, that we provide additional opportunities for the public to comment on the budget. So in conclusion, the recommended operating budget and the capital budgets meet council's goals and priorities for 2021, resulting in a minimal tax increase to our local ratepayers. It includes provisions for mitigating COVID-19 impacts on the budget, and the budget may require adjustments later in the year pending the impact of COVID. But at this time, staff recommends that council approve the budget, and we'd like to thank council, the mayor, and all the staff for all the hard work that goes into preparing for the budget, asking us questions, and I guess putting time into reading the budget and giving it consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. Are there any questions for Maury at this time? In our regular meeting, which will be coming up shortly, we will be dealing with this again for approvals. So moving to 7.2, we have updated the bylaw with regards to medical recruitment, and Maury will speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. As outlined in my report, in 2010, just over 10 years ago, Municipal Council passed a bylaw to support local efforts through our Lady Dunn Health Centre and Recruitment Committee volunteers to support the attraction and recruitment of medical professionals, which include other professionals at the time that the community was short of. So the mayor has joined the recent recruitment committee of the Lady Dunn Health Centre, and we have reviewed 2010, which today has proven itself to be out of date. So working with the CEO of the hospital, the committee, and the mayor, we present to council a revised medical for consideration. Since 2010, money was set aside for council, so there is $113,645 set aside in a conditional reserve fund, meaning those funds were put aside specifically for the purpose of medical recruitment, and that sits in a reserve fund earning interest. It has not been tapped into since it was set up in 2010. Now that the CEO of the hospital and the medical recruitment of the hospital committee, they're under the immediate need to attract new physicians, in particular, to the hospital, as we've just recently lost 2 of our doctors. You may have seen the recent article on the Wawa News advising residents that because of the loss of our 2 physicians, there may be longer wait times at the hospital. So we are now at a point that the recruitment committee feels that we should tap into some of this funding to try to recruit professionals to the community. In terms of background, this committee is being run by the Lady Dunn Health Centre. Our mayor sits on it, but there will be efforts made to request that our surrounding communities, such as Dubreuilville, Michpicot First Nation, and Hawk Junction, join in the committee to support the attraction of needed medical services to our community. and that the hospital is requesting an annual amount of $22,500 to go towards recruitment and retention costs for 2021 and the same amount for 2022. So for the remainder of the term of council, they're asking if they could access this money to go towards recruitment costs. So the bylaw being proposed would be, of course, subject to the passing of the annual operating budget, but the conditions that have been discussed that would be included in a new bylaw would include details on the partners, allowing additional partners to join and leave the recruitment committee, setting up the terms of reference for how the money set aside by council could be accessed by the hospital for recruitment, and that in the terms and conditions that the mayor or his or her designate be provided one seat on the committee. So should council approve a new agreement with the Lady Dunn Health Centre, the requested funds would be withdrawn from the municipal reserve set up for this purpose, leaving, if they use the total of $45,000 over the next 2 years, it would leave $68,645 remaining in the fund at the end of which would still gain interest to leave some money for the future. In terms of options for council, there are many options for council, which would include not approving a new agreement or altering the amount to be accessed from the committee. But at this time, staff is recommending that a new bylaw setting out the new medical recruitment agreement be approved and forwarded to council at the regular meeting on May 4th for council's consideration. And I attached the draft new bylaw and I believe the previous bylaw for council's background.
Thank you, Maury. Also on that committee, I believe invitations will be extended to the community of White River as well. And one of the things that you should be aware of, the hospital will be receiving funding for locums, but that only lasts for 6 months. So, starting in May, there will be funding to help bring in locums to help with the shortage, but it's really critical that we find, hopefully, doctors to replace the 2 physicians that have left. So I certainly support this bylaw, and we will continue to work with the hospital to ensure that we have a full complement of physicians. It's something that's extremely important for our community. So we are looking, as the committee is looking at various options, and one of the options, because it's getting so critical, is to actually look at professional recruiters and try to get some assistance from them to assist the committee with finding replacements for the 2 physicians that are leaving. So that, again, that's an item that will come up in the regular. If you don't have any questions now, we can answer. If something comes up, please ask us questions later. So moving on to item 7.3, report for the month of March from Alex. If you'd like to go ahead, Alex.
Sure, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you're coming through real good.
Awesome.
Here, any?
Okay, so March was a pretty busy month for us. Of course, we had curling ice removal halfway through the month, but you can see from some of the other statistics that generally the facility was quite busy. And unlike a traditional month where we see after March break things start to shift, the differences this year really meant that we were busy right through up until April 1st, which was good because that was our shutdown date, unfortunately, anyways. So a couple things we worked on, of course, curling ice removal was a big one. Some of the recreation programs that we did, we were able to increase some of the daytime offerings, specifically for seniors programming, and we had really good participation there. Even though classes were capped to 10 because we were in the yellow zone, we still had quite a lot of people come out to those classes, and those classes were essentially full every time that we offered them. So it was really good to see folks come out. We did some planning because we also were successful in a social services relief fund grant. So we were able to get $37,000, a little bit more, $38,000 from the Algoma District Services Administration Board. And that was for social services relief. So what that allowed us to do is offset some of our additional costs from normal recreation programming. So in a traditional budget for a 60-minute class, you would pay an instructor for 60 minutes. And right now you have additional cleaning before and after. That meant that we had to reduce our classes to maintain the same budget. In this case, now that we got the grant, we were able to offset that. We were also able to take care of some of the other programs that were happening in the community that couldn't happen anymore because those organizations didn't have access to the amount of funding they needed to do the additional cleaning. So things like the Soup to Tomatoes programs, those sorts of programs weren't happening anymore. And we were able to get some funding to pick up those as well as purchase some additional equipment to replace some items that we had that we weren't allowed to use anymore because they were soft fabrics or something that was difficult to clean. So we're pretty happy with that. Of course, we did a bunch of planning to plan for the next 2 months of programming here, and then that was closed April 1st. So we really had to shift gears and rejig a bunch of that programming to be able to offer it online. We are offering things online this month, and that's been working out pretty well so far. We've spent some time getting some seniors up and going on Zoom, and we've had some really good participation from the community. So I'll be able to give council some of the statistics of that in the next report. After that, included here is a couple things that just for interest of council, some of the posters that we put out, some of our stats on what a regular week looked like in March and things for information, as well as the last thing that I have is our spring work plan. And this is a very operational thing, but it's essentially what our goals are and what are some of the things that we'd like to achieve in the spring, of course, pending, what happens with COVID and everything. So any questions on that?
Do any of the councilors have any questions? Hearing none?
Alex, I have a
Does.
question,
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor. Okay.
Yes?
Alex, I need to have a meeting with you in trying to find some trophies. And I really want to see the Wellwell Minor Hockey bursary plaque go back up. So would you fit me in sometime?
Absolutely. Sure thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a whole, beautiful set of trophy rack that's just stacked to the top with trophies. So I'm sure what you're looking for is in there.
There's some of the trophies that you've got mixed up there. But anyway, I have a book that a lady made up and I'll show you.
Awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, just give
Thank
me a
you.
call anytime. Thanks.
Okay. If there are no other questions, Alex, you want to go ahead with your report on the marina operation? Just a reminder, Alex, your voice started off real strong and then you went to an inside voice. You can use, as your teacher used to tell you, your outside voice, and we'll be able to follow your report. So
Are you
go
going to
ahead.
give him control?
Sure, I'll do that. So we're just going to
Thank you.
switch over here. The report on the marina operations is quite. So what we did is we broke down the recommendations into a presentation so I can really hit the highlights. But of course, if you read anything in that report that stands out that you'd like to ask questions about, you're absolutely welcome to do that too. Kathy, have you switched it over to me?
You can share your screen at any time.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so everybody can see the presentation, okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so the gist of this is we essentially wanted to present council with what we did in 2020, what are some of the things that went well, what are some of the things that went poorly, make some recommendations for learning from some of the things we learned in 2020, as well as talk a little bit about divestiture. And so I'll do that essentially in that order. So the recommendations that we have in the report, there's 4 of them. The first one is enter into a slightly modified contract with the marina operator for 2021, which fixes some of the issues that we ran into in 2020. The second recommendation is to implement the 2021 operations plan. So very similar to our spring work plan, we make an operation plan for the season for the facility because it is its own beast a little bit, and there's some things that are very different than some of our normal sort of parks operations. The third recommendation is proceed with the creation of a divestiture proposal as outlined. And so I'll talk a little bit about what divestiture is, because I don't think all the councillors were here when we started on that in 2017, as well as B, what the proposal entails and roughly the direction that we like to go. And then the last recommendation is to modify the schedule of fees, and that's actually included in the operating budget, but I'll talk a little bit about what are the things that we'd like to try this year to see if we can get some better results. So the first recommendation is the contract updates. So you'll see in the report, there's an appendix of a contract with the municipality and with the operator. And essentially what we're looking to do this year is to modify that contract slightly to make sure that we get the revenue capture that we're looking for. So there's a couple small provisions in there. Provisions very similar to last year are to make sure that the passes for slips and for launches can be sold by both the municipality and the operator. One of the things that we need to correct from last year is passes need to be sold in multiple units. So for example, if you're selling a day pass for a slip, we want to make sure that if someone gets 3 days, they don't get issued 3-day passes, but one pass that covers those 3 days. So just some small technicalities to change there. And then we'd like to implement a system where daily and weekly boat launches will be sold at a type of kiosk very similar to what you would find at Ontario Parks, which will reduce administrative cost on both ends and hopefully capture more revenue than what we're seeing right now. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into fees. The next one I have as a recommendations is our 2021 operations plan. So with this plan, we have 3 main goals. The first goal is to provide better service to the community by continuing to make improvements to our operations. So that's everything from improving signage down at the facility to continuing work on the fish cleaning shack like we've done the last couple of years. And that includes everything from communications right down through to, making sure things are painted, making sure things are spruced up a little better, and some very specific operational projects. The next goal that we have is to increase revenue and decrease expenses to ensure that the marina. One of the main ways we'd like to increase revenue is to make sure that we as the municipality are capturing as much of the revenue of that facility as possible. And one of the ways we like to decrease expenses is to try and decrease the administration fees of the facility, but also make sure that we're doing things efficiently there. So that includes things like doing a funding application for a set of washroom facilities so we no longer have to rent them. It's something that we applied to Trillium for. We were recently rejected, but there's other opportunities available to do that. And then our third goal is with the Municipal Marina Advisory Committee, plan for major capital upgrades by creating a proposal for council and small craft harbors. And so I'll talk about that a little bit in the divestiture section of the presentation, but essentially that is the longer term aspect of our operations plan for this year. So divestiture. So this is a process that began in 2017, and essentially the gist of it is that Small Craft Harbors is no longer interested in having any marinas that are non-commercial marinas. So all of their recreation facilities, they're trying to get rid of, and they've been on this process for over 10 years now, probably closer to 15. And it's something that they're slowly working through the 400 and change of their recreational marinas in the country and getting rid of them piece by piece. So it seems like, as far as I can tell, they do a couple a year. And so we're getting close to next on the list. I recently received a phone call from Small Craft Harbors, and they're starting to tell us, hey, you know what, it's time to get going. We're getting close to looking at you guys and to really assessing your facility. The process of divestiture is really to make sure that the municipality doesn't take on a liability, but we take on an asset. So you can see in the picture there, that was dock number 4 before our department and the Public Works Department took care of it. But this is the condition that the marina is in. And all of these things are currently owned by Small Craft Harbors. So for us to take them over in the current state would be totally unfeasible. It needs a significant amount of investment. And at the end of the day, it's not our infrastructure. So the divestiture program that we're in is essentially a grant program. And what it does is it looks to give the municipality money to repair the infrastructure before handing it over to the municipality. And that's the only way that we could feasibly continue to operate the facility, is to make sure that we get funding from external sources to fix some of the issues that are there. So right now, I think it's really important to reinforce to council that today we don't need any type of commitment. What we're looking for is just to present the general direction that we would like to see us going. And when I say we, I mean myself and the Municipal Marina Advisory Committee, and to make sure that council is roughly on board with that. But the real decision making would come once a proposal is created. That proposal would be very similar to a road application or something that we've done in the last couple of years, reviewed by council first to make sure that council fully understands what the full financial commitment is, what all of the things that we're looking to do would be, and what the costs are, and to make sure that council's really going to say, yes, we would like to take over the facility and do this exactly. I think it's really important when we talk about proposals that we're not just talking about a laundry list of items, but we're also talking about a sustainability plan for the facility. So that doesn't just involve improving specific assets, but it also makes sure that this facility is going to be cost effective to operate for the municipality for years to come. So the main goal for the proposal would be to develop the facility in such a way that it's fully funded by user fees. So that can happen in a variety of different ways. And you can see in the report, I've outlined essentially a laundry list of items, but each of those items is designed to make sure that that facility is sustainable. It's got to make sure that the revenue generation is such that it offsets the expenses of that facility in a very similar way to how the water and sewer department is currently operated, where all of the user fees offset not only the operating costs, but the future capital costs for the facility as well. And then the next thing it's really got to include is to make sure that the marina will still have water in the next couple of years. One of the issues that we've talked about for quite some time now is where is the river going to go and what's going to happen. So the proposal must be able to show that at a minimum for the medium and long term that the facility is going to be sustainable. So right now, development of the proposal will not impact the 2021 budget. So we're looking, if we need engineering supports or things like that, we're looking for additional funding from other sources, non-municipal sources, to be able to do that work. At the end of the day, our goal is to have a proposal complete and in council's hands in the September to October range. If we can manage to do that and council at that time, not now, but at that time approves that proposal, then we would go to Small Craft Harbors, we would go to FedNor and the NOHFC with those proposals, with the hope that if all of our ducks in a row and we can all agree and have a path forward that's clearly sustainable, that we could see funding as early as next fiscal year. But again, that's very far into the future, and we have several opportunities to talk about it in between now and then. But the gist of it, and accepting this report and these recommendations, would be that council is directing staff and specifically our department to pursue the creation of a proposal, which would then be reviewed once it is complete by council at a later date. The last section is on fees. So we're proposing a change to launch fees, and it doesn't have to happen too often in the municipality, but what we're recommending is reducing the daily and weekly launch fees. The reason that we're asking that is essentially to make them round numbers that people would have bills to make a kiosk more functional. So for example, our daily rate right now is $7.50, and that's not really an easy bill to carry. But if you have a $5 launch fee, then that's much more likely to be paid. We recently did a marina survey where 195 people responded to it, and there was over 130 people who said they launch at the facility, but we only captured like less than half of that of people actually paying for launches. So we feel like there's a bunch of people out there who do launch at the facility, but it's not necessarily convenient or conducive, or they don't want to pay because they're not sure that their money is being reinvested. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to try a kiosk system to see if we capture more revenue, even though we've reduced the cost. We as staff believe that we will after discussing it. However, it does have some risk. The total launch fees that we received last year was $1,400, so it's not a massive risk to try it, because if we lose a little bit of money, it doesn't the overall budget, but there are some risks there. The rest of the fees are either staying the same or being increased. And what we've done is, you can see in one of the appendixes, there's a whole cost calculation, some comparisons with other municipalities. The methodology that we used to come up with those fees is we took an average of several northern communities who we felt were comparable, and then raised the fees in small amounts to line up with those averages. And those are all included both in the appendix and in the schedule. Any questions?
It's open to council. If anyone on council has a question for Alex at this time,
I have a quick question, Your Mayor.
go ahead.
Alex, all through your presentation, you said we. Do you mean the new committee that is formed?
Yeah, the new committee that is formed had a lot to say with this, absolutely. Especially when I talk about making a proposal, that would be the we that I reference in terms of making a proposal. Other things that are more operational in nature, that would be our department.
So has your committee seen this proposal?
Yeah, so they were sent essentially this whole report in draft form.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll throw one in now. Alex, how do you plan on funding the write-up of the proposal and particularly some of the engineering on the river? Is that something that you'll seek funding for in order to have a proposal for council that's very very complete and takes in all of the factors?
Absolutely. So there's going to be some consulting work required. Probably the biggest consulting work would be, like you say, on the hydrology side of things, but secondarily on the business plan side of things. We're really lucky as a committee, there's a whole pile of expertise sitting around the table. We have representatives from Brookfield to help talk to us about the river. So we're hoping to get it done with a combination of external funding. So applying to private companies, applying to potential funding organizations if we have the opportunity, as well as using some of the expertise that's been committed to us around the table. So we're not 100% sure what exactly we need yet for that expertise, because we're trying to get as much of it done, I would say, quote unquote, like pro bono as possible. So we've had offers from a couple different places, including the local Ministry of Natural Resources, to help us out with some of the hydrology stuff. The scale of that is to be determined, but essentially whatever we can't do pro bono or in-house, then we'll be looking for a combination of private and public funding to get the rest of it done.
Okay, thank you. The kiosk, is that just going to be set up and it's going to be on an honor system? Or do you plan on having people there? Or?
I guess it'll be a combination. Kiosk itself is going to be very similar to if you go to Ontario Parks and you're looking to take out a day use permit at Orphan Lake, for example. There's a small station set up with a sign on it with a box with a lock on it, and there's a set of envelopes, and the envelope contains a pass, and you fill out the form, you put the cash in the envelope, you put the envelope in the box. The passes themselves, though, are a little bit easier to police because it's essentially like a red square. And so when staff are there, and staff are there every single day doing inspections, cleaning washrooms, checking garbages, whatever it may be, they're also able to go and take a look at all the vehicles and see who has a pass and who doesn't have a pass. So we have some, ability to enforce a little bit with our bylaw officer, but essentially we were pretty lucky, and we have staff who know the community quite well and who are able to, leave a letter on a windshield or call somebody who they know whose truck is there who doesn't have a permit and do it that way. So mostly on the honor system, but we have a little bit of enforcement ability as well.
One last question for me, and then I'll turn it over to council again. So as you're working on the proposal and you threw in the date that the organization, Small Crafts and Harvest, want to get it done or at least started by 2021, would you be able to prepare for council before the end of 2021 some kind of time frame and cost projections for this development of this proposal, so that council will know what it's going to cost, when it, what actions are taking place, and when they could expect a final result?
Absolutely. So I can do a preliminary write-up for the next council meeting of what the rough timeline is, but the real way to set it in stone will be when the actual proposal is created, and that'll have the specific milestones as well as a true cost forecast that's had some type of engineering or quotes behind it to make sure that council fully understands what they're committing to before any sign-offs happen.
And will part of that include maintenance and upkeep costs moving forward beyond
So
2021?
Yeah, so when I talk about sustainability, that's exactly what I mean, is we need to make sure that we're able to offset the expense of operating the facility with the revenue from the facility. So as someone from staff, I don't think I could recommend a path forward to council that doesn't have that business part of it entailed. I don't think there's much of a point of putting a whole bunch of capital dollars onto a piece of infrastructure that we can't actually afford to continue to operate into the future. So any recommendation that we would put forward as staff,
We're losing your voice, Alex.
sorry, any recommendation that we would put forward as staff would include that business component to ensure that we would have the revenue moving forward to operate the facility in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Alex?
Mayor, I have a question. It's Councillor Tate.
Go ahead.
So this presentation is only a presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no commitment by council or nothing here. This is just a presentation.
So essentially, the only commitments would be to enter into the contract for 2021 with the operator and implement the 2021 operations plan. The schedule of fees is something that is going to be subject to another council vote, and proceeding with the creation of a divestiture proposal. Really what I'm trying to do is to make sure that council is roughly happy with the direction that we're going, but there's no actual commitment there until we create a proposal and hand it to council for approval.
Okay, so tonight, this here is a presentation and the operating budget and that is still in the budget side of the normal thing to approve the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Basically, we'd say we're looking at a short-term planning for this year, and then the long-term will be the proposal, and once Alex gets information on that, and that's something that's there's a bit more long-term for council to consider.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, Alex, and appreciate you making the slideshow for us, taking the main points out of your presentation and putting it up like that. It helped to understand it today. So, and also anybody out there watching in on our meeting, certainly helped them as well. So move to item 7.5. We had a request for a handicap parking space from the Legion. This makes perfect sense because since they put in the lift in the alleyway between the Legion and the former Victor White building, we need to reserve a spot for anyone pulling up to access that. So they have asked for either side. I don't know if they have a preference. And I don't know, is Kevin speaking to this or?
No, I'm
No.
sorry, Mayor, no one's prepared to speak.
Okay.
It was written to Dan Beach, and Dan is looking at measuring off the appropriate space. And so we also, as staff, recommend it move forward. Just wanted to make sure that council's comfortable.
Yeah, I guess the consideration that Dan and will probably look at is if you, as you're facing the Legion, if you take the space to the left, you're going to make it larger. Will you end up eliminating one parking spot between the Legion, in front of the Legion and bowling alley? Whereas if you use the spot to the right, at least there's far more parking spots along that side. Most vehicles you tend to probably exit a wheelchair from the right-hand side, but you can, overlap, be a little bit in the laneway and give yourselves lots of room to unload. So I guess they'll probably take that into consideration when they finally do it.
Yes.
In terms of notifying other businesses in the area, is that something, or is this a decision council can make and give the approval to go ahead with it?
I believe it's, Kathy, is it a bylaw, parking bylaw? So we'd have to bring the bylaw forward to council. I don't believe that we have a duty to inform businesses, but it would be advisable to let the bowling alley know to have to take a parking space from that area to advise them and look for input. At this time, you bring up exactly where staff are at, trying to figure out, can we handicap accessible guidelines for a space without taking a space away from the bowling side? If we go to the other side, we have to look at, you're right, because most vehicles, you exit on the right-hand side, so we'd have to do a bit of an access curb cut if we go on the other side. So there's some challenges.
Okay.
So we would bring our final proposal back to council and an amendment to the bylaw, and we will notify the bowling alley or businesses in the area.
I think council, we definitely would be in support of this, and we'll just wait for staff to bring us a recommendation as to where it will be located and what the configuration of the rest of the parking spots will be. So we'll just ask staff to bring that forward to us as quickly as possible. And certainly as the weather improves, we'll get that done for the region. Item 7.6, I received a letter. This letter with regards to childcare workers' vaccinations was a letter that was addressed to mayors across the province, and they wanted the workers in the children's centers wanted support to have their mayor and council lobby the government to consider childcare workers as what's the term they're using? But certainly very vital workers. They're working closely with children. They provide a great service to the families that are out working and require the childcare, and they just wanted additional protection for COVID-19 and wanted to be considered essential and moved up the list. So I brought the topic up to our Goma District Municipal Association meeting last Saturday. Dr. Liu said at this time that they're not able to change it, but I also intend to bring it to the mayor's meeting coming up in the next or in early May, and we'll probably get a resolution of support and just send it out to assist them in that way. So that's pretty well all we can do there is write the letters and just support that they have a good position, and if they can move up a week or two, that would be beneficial for them. The next item is something we get every spring, and it's a sign of spring in Wawa that John's Value Mart wants to install their temporary greenhouse. And that's comes up later in the regular. So if you walk by, you can see that they're getting ready to install it in the same corner of the parking lot. So I don't think council has any issue with that. We have no in-camera, no business arising from close. So our next meeting is Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. And if I could have moved by Pat that we adjourn the meeting 18. Any objections? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Just like Kathy, get ready to move on to the regular council meeting agenda. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:19. Note that all the councilors, is Bill still present with us?
No,
We've lost Bill again.
he comes on, then he's off.
Okay, well, we have the other councilors. We'll note if he joins us. And Kathy, you have a list and know which staff members are with us?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call for any disclosure of pecuniary interests. Hearing none, I'll move to the approval of the agenda. We have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Tate, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, April 20, 2021 be approved as presented.
Any objections? Hearing none, approved. There are no delegations or presentation tonight. There's a list of announcements, are there any announcements from any councillor? Announcements?
I have one, Mayor Rhodey.
Yes, go ahead.
I really, really want to thank the staff through all this COVID-19, all the work they've done. They've especially had to work with me because my computer wasn't working very well. It's just all the extra little things they've done. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure they appreciate hearing that. And we have notice of meetings, and of course, because of the latest lockdown, you see some of those meetings have been scratched out, but those that are taking place are listed there. So I'll ask you to note that. We have the adoption of our regular council meetings from Tuesday, April the 6th, and we have a resolution.
Mayor Rhodey, just so you know, Councillor Chason did rejoin the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Welcome back.
Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese, resolved that the following minutes of the meeting of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, April 6, 2021, as contained on pages 1 to 6, inclusive of the minute book.
Are there any questions or comments regarding those minutes? Hearing none. Anybody opposed to accepting the minutes? Hearing none, minutes are accepted. There's one item of correspondence from the town of Caledon. Just ask you to read that at your leisure. And the consent agenda, we have a resolution to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the items listed under consent agenda, items 8.2 to 8.6, be approved as recommended.
Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, it's accepted. Item 9, staff reports. Resolution.
Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive the following staff reports, a copy of which are attached here too. A, CAO 2021-02 operating budget for 2021. B, CAO 2021-03 medical recruitment. C, AP 2021-06 report for the month of March 2021. D, AP 2021-07 marina operations 2021.
Are there any questions? Opposed? Passed. Resolution's accepted. Number 10, business arising out of previous meeting, none. New business, none. Notice of motion, none. Bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Tate, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3382-21 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 20th day of April 2021. Bylaw number 3383-21 to adopt the estimates of all sums required and to fix the rate of taxation for the corporation of the municipality of Wawa, and to further provide a penalty and interest in default of payment thereof for the year 2021. Bylaw number 3384-21 for the establishing of taxes for properties in commercial, industrial, and multi-residential tax classes, and for establishing 3 bands of assessment of property for the purposes of facilitating graduated tax rates for the properties including the classes for the corporation of the municipality of Wawa. File number 3385-21 to establish a percentage by which tax decreases are limited for a taxation year for commercial, industrial, multi-residential property classes. File number 21 for the establishing of tax ratios for the corporation of the municipality of Wawa. File number 33 to adopt the small scale on-farm business subclass in the industrial property class within the corporation of the municipality of Wawa. File number 3388-21 to adopt the schedule of fees for the corporation of the municipality of Wawa for the year 2021.
Thank you. So a number of bylaws there, and they're basically all related to the passing of our budgets. Are there any questions? I'm sure Maury would be glad to answer them. Okay. Hearing none, I'll call a question. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, it is accepted. Thank you. We'll move to item 14, move resolution to move into closed session.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Shazo. Resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 7:25 in order to address the following matters pertaining to a legal issue. There's 2 items: sale and purchase of land. It's related to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we will move into closed session. So it's 7:25. Let's take 5 minutes and we'll get back to the closed meeting at 7:30. I don't have a copy of the agenda for the close.